very tough for people. So I'm glad she's been able to feel comfortable enough to talk about this with the general public.
Someone's asking about the interview with the Hollywood butler that I mentioned the other night. So the interview with the Hollywood butler, let's just say a legal obstacle has prevented that one for now. So on Saturday, I'm hoping to come on with Beverly and Jen and a shamanic priestess. We will see how that progresses. We'll have more news on that tomorrow. All right, next question. The lovely Leroy Creates is asking, how did Jeffrey's list disappear? Is there a Diddy Jay-Z connection there?
I mean, I don't know that the list disappeared. I don't know that there's necessarily a list. You know what I mean? There's plenty of evidence of people that were connected to him. Maybe they put it together in some sort of master copy list. But again, these are so much more valuable to the authorities to hold on to them than to ever release them to the general public. Oh my gosh, it's just you get so much more mileage out of having this information and keeping it hidden, because now you essentially become the controller of the control file. And of course the government loves that. They love any opportunity they can to insert themselves and to take control over people. So you've given it from, it's gone from one set of blackmailers to another.
Indeed, and Elon was making jokes, wasn't he, about getting people to release the list or something. All right, so let's go over to this subject, because this is fascinating, especially here in the UK, because this is in America. Are these UFOs a look over here from Hollywood because Babylon is falling, dark is coming to light, God's will be done? Are they spreading something and we have no clue? You've had several questions coming already, Charlie, about the drones.
Yeah.
What the hell is going on over there, man?
Yeah, it feels like a big distraction to me. It always does. But I'm also very much aware of Werner von Braun saying that the final card that they will play is the fake alien invasion. And don't you believe it? Not for a minute, right? You're talking about it. Don't believe the fake alien invasion. So it sounds crazy when you make that statement, 30 years ago. But nowadays, when you see this, it feels a bit like a distraction to me. It feels like something, not to say that there's not real concerns about drones or not, but drones have been in our public consciousness for the last year in a big way. I've seen them really kind of show the dark side of drones with what's going on in Ukraine. And you see some of the footage coming back from the front lines of that, and the psychological trauma that these guys are going through, where they're filming themselves in a foxhole, laying down there and listening to those drones go like whiz right by them, looking for them, and then blow up in the distance because they found somebody, and you're like, oh my God, like what does that do to you, right? So the drones have been in the news for a long time recently, and my guess is that and some of the people connected to the Trump administration, those incoming technocrats, they're involved in building drones as well, and for the military. So there's a pivot towards drones. Cliff High talked about this as well. He's talking about some public, like the greater consciousness of that at some point in December, everyone's going to start talking about drones. Well, here we are. Everyone's talking about lights in the sky and what they're seeing. So whenever the mainstream media enthusiastically covers it, that's your first indicator that it's probably nonsense, right? Because if it were really a concern, they would be the last people to tell you about it.
So you're getting asked then if you think that Justin Bieber appears to be one of these guys who's like gone through MK Ultra, because he's behaving and looks a bit stressed out. I'll put a picture up.
Yeah, I have a ton of empathy for this guy. I mean, again, I don't know these people, and I hope that, I think that people understand that he was put through the ringer as a kid in a variety of ways. And my assumption is that it wasn't limited to just Diddy. And that is horrible. My hope is that he didn't perpetrate it and continue the cycle on other people, if that is in fact the case. Because we know that happens quite a bit, that the victim becomes the perpetrator and keeps this cycle going. He seems very broken, and I have sympathy for him. And again, like, it's one thing if you're an adult and you make the decision you're going to Hollywood and you're going to do whatever it takes to be famous. It's another thing when you're a little kid and your parents put you in show business because you're like a trained singing and dancing monkey. You can go out there like Justin Bieber as a little kid and show off and be a really talented musician. I remember seeing pictures or videos of him drumming when he's like a little kid, and I'm like, oh my god, he's a fantastic musician. In that case, he doesn't have a choice. That's his parents did that to him. And so I don't view that in the same way I would view some dumb starlet who decides that she's turned 18 and she's going to move to Hollywood and become a star. You know what I mean? At that, I don't, I'm not saying bad things should happen to her. I'm just saying that you put yourself in a position for bad things to happen there. I have sympathy for a kid like Justin Bieber who was treated poorly by the industry. He's not alone, unfortunately. I mean, we see this with a lot of child stars that go through this and totally derail. I mean, he's not the first, unfortunately. He's probably not going to be the last either.
Yeah, and we interviewed Suge Knight from prison, and he seconded.
I'm sorry. Did you say you interviewed Suge Knight from prison?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Holy moly!
I'll
What was
have
that
to
like?
send you the link. That was
Well,
He seconded your theory of Bieber being passed around. He said that he ended up on various vacations with wealthy executives, males.
Yeah.
Is that what you're talking about with Beyonce there? That kind of imagery?
Oh yeah, there's something, huh?
People in the chat, what do you make of that? The symbolism in this photo of Beyonce?
Blow it up a little bit. I can't really see it too much. It looks like, besides her being totally deified here and people reaching out to her like she's. Oh, I'm sure that some people could talk to you about the Columbia symbology with the rays shooting out. I'm unqualified for this one. I'm sure there's some Saturn worship going on with those earrings. I don't know. I'm sure there's some encoded messages in there somewhere. Somebody who's a master of symbols will take a look at that and go.
Jay Dyer
will take a look at it and tell you.
Yeah, we had him on the other night. I in advance of that, I rewatched Eyes Wide Shut.
Yes, that's a sad movie, man. That's a really messed up movie.
Yeah. Jessica wants to know, what do you know about Project Bluebeam?
Yeah, it's a real thing. It's a fake alien invasion, Project Bluebeam. I'll tell you what. There's a video that I remember watching in like 2010. And it's a video from a company called Magic Leap. And they made it it was a demonstration inside a high school gymnasium. They put all the students up in the bleachers, and it was like, like a bunch of 7-year-olds. And there was nobody on the basketball floor. But they'd brought in the Magic Leap technology, and they ran it, and they made it look like a humpback whale came out of the basketball floor, breached on its side, and then splashed water all over them. The kids just jumped back thinking they were going to get splashed with this imaginary water. It was that real. That's 15 years ago. And that company is one of the partners of the World Economic Forum. So I don't know what the technology looks like now, because it made an entire gymnasium full of 7-year-olds think that there was an actual whale in there. And I can't, and that's the commercial facing technology, and that's 15 years ago. So my guess is that if they wanted to fake something using Project Bluebeam as a reference, that we would be blown away at how great the light show is. I went to the Grateful Dead last year in Boulder, and about 3/4 of the way through the concert, they did a big drone light show that came out. You could see them coming out, like it opened up like an 18-wheeler, and they just sort of float out everywhere. And they made it look like the Grateful Dead dancing bear was dancing back and forth and everything. I mean, they turned it into the Steal Your Face logo and made it rotate with stars rotating around it. I mean, it was the greatest light show I've ever seen. And again, that's just commercial technology that you can see at a concert. So what they have and what they're, again, people have speculated that the chemtrailing program has something to do with this as well, as far as putting certain minerals and certain substances into the atmosphere in order to have a better projector in which to project something on later. So of course that would explain away, not to mention it's also poisoning people, but to create a better surface area for projecting this light show in the future is certainly a possibility.
So we've got almost 3,000 watching live across all platforms, and with Charlie Robinson, author of The Octopus of Global Control. If you're looking for a Christmas book, and check out his podcast, Macroaggressions. All right, so next question from Seago. Do you think we're far from an exodus of celebrity relevance in our culture? How long before the genie escapes the bottle?
Boy, it sure would be nice, because the wrong sort of people have been elevated to these positions in our society, and it would be better. We could do a little bit better than the current batch. I don't know that it'll ever really go away because again, they're so useful and disposable, and of course, in the entertainment industry, it draws a certain type of personality, people that really are looking for fame, people that want that need that. And so when you offer something that well, let's be honest, sociopaths desire, don't act surprised when you draw a disproportionate number of sociopaths into the industry, and then it becomes run in a way that's very unhealthy. So I think that it would be nice to believe that the celebrities are sort of losing their status, and maybe this current batch are. But as far as the celebrities in the future being used to manipulate people's opinions on things, it's such a cheap investment for them. It works so well. My guess is that that's going to be here to stay. But maybe you won't be able to. There might not be any more Jay-Z world tours, but there will be a new person that will fill that slot in the future.
Hey, Lauren, you're asking about a young man, Jay-Z's probable son. We had Jay-Z's probable son. His name's Rymir on last week, so check that out in the backlist. All right, so the unqualified therapist. How far do you expect the entertainment and money-hungry industries to fall over the next year?
Well, the banking system has me alarmed. If we would call that a money-hungry industry. I've done a lot of work recently on the commercial real estate industry of market in the United States being in a bit of a free fall. A lot of retail stores are closing up. There's just not as much demand. That's going to create a big problem. And the problem it creates is that most of the banks that loan money on commercial real estate properties are medium-sized banks, not the real big ones that you would think. And so when your big commercial building goes bust, and a couple of them have already gone bust, those medium-sized banks tend to get hit the hardest. And when that happens, it has a cascading effect. So I think that the banking system, everybody's really focused on like the big banks. If the big banks are too big to fail, if they fail, oh no, we're in a lot of trouble. Well, they're not going to fail because they are too big to fail. The small and medium-sized banks are the ones to keep an eye on. And in 2025, I have big concerns about that because they don't seem very solvent. They've made a lot of poor decisions, and of course, you have to pay the piper at some point. So maybe Trump has a plan to turn that around. I don't know, but that's a tall order to turn that around. So I think that there's going to be pain coming in 2025 in some of these industries that have really experienced, like, just got creamed over the last couple of years with COVID and whatnot. So I think that there's only so long you can drag that out.
They cream themselves with all this woke BS. All right, so next question. Ike Jones Maxwell. What's Charlie's opinion on the Mandela effect? And does he think there's a firmament? And have we ever gone into space?
Let me answer the firmament question here with my DMT experience on a beach in Acapulco, because on the last session that night, Johnny Dollar, my DMT partner, crypto artist Johnny Dollar, he said, this time I want you to keep your eyes open and I want you to look up and tell me what you see. And so I did, and I looked out at night out at the ocean, and I could barely see it. The moon was lighting it up, and I could see the stars, and everything froze. And I looked up, and I could see it. Everything turned into a grid, a very fine bluish green color grid just sort of appeared almost out of the sand in perfect grid formation, and it extended as far out as I could see to the horizon. And then I followed it and looked up all the way until I was laying on my back looking, and it felt like the stars had moved out of the way, and I could see the grid projected all the way up on the ceiling. And it made me think there was a firmament, and it made me think I was in a simulation. And that's the answer. So the answer to your question about, is there a firmament? What happened that was interesting after that was, when I got done, I turned to Johnny and I said, he said, what did you see? And I said, I saw the grid. And he said, I knew you would. And he said, for whatever reason, this batch, everybody sees the grid. And it was in a vape pen. It was a DMT vape pen. And he said, with this batch, everybody sees the grid. And he goes, I didn't want to tell you because I didn't want to like put it in your head. I just wanted to see. I said, I saw it like clear as day. And so firmament, I'm a maybe on that. I'm a strong maybe on that one.
All right. What's the solution to all the mass madness?
Well, boy, that's a hell of a question. I don't have the answer for what the solution is to all of it. First of all, you're only going to be able to reach a certain small segment of your friends, right? As times get tough and as things get weird, prioritize your energy and talk to the people who you can reach and who will listen to you, and don't instantly think that you're crazy. And for anybody else, there's just really, it's a waste of time to try and sell them on what you see. They're probably not going to see it. Most people don't. They're not going to understand where you're coming from. Prioritizing my energy has been to me, one of the best internal solutions that I can use to get away from the madness, because the longer I try to argue with idiots on Twitter or try to convince one of my long lost friends that the government is trying to kill him, I just get dragged into these arguments with people that aren't really interested in knowing much. They just want to fight with you. And it's really tempting to get drawn into that. So to the extent that you can remove yourself from that sort of nonsense, I think you'll feel better mentally. And then that really is the cure for the mass madness. I mean, you're not going to be able to fix crazy people. They're going to do what they're going to do, but it's your response and your reaction to their insanity that's probably going to separate you. And especially as we get into the holidays, when you're going to be forced to integrate with your family that you may or may not share similar beliefs with. I mean, it really pays to kind of keep everything cool and not start, conflicts over this, and try and remove yourself from the madness to the extent that you can. Some of it's going to be forced upon you, nothing you can do except react to it. But as much as you can remove yourself from it or not put yourself in a position to get yourself crazy, oh boy, that's a lesson I've had to learn over time, and I'm still learning it, to be honest with you.
Charlie, that is so pertinent, because history is repeating itself in the Diddy sphere. Do you remember when we were all researching Jeffrey and we were all united, and then survivors and researchers started to fall out? Yeah. Well, it's happened in the Diddy sphere. I'm surrounded by people trying to drag me into disputes right now. Yeah. But the minute you engage, their energy transfers to you. So I
Yes.
try and be polite with these people, help them a little bit, and just get the hell away from them, because otherwise,
Yeah. 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 We're talking about really polarizing subjects, and I get it that people have strong opinions about it, and these are worthy debates to have, and we should definitely be asking questions, but there can be a very negative side to it that isn't really concerned with necessarily getting to the truth, but trying to sell a certain narrative. So again, yeah, it's just awareness. Once you're aware, like, oh, this is going to be bad, you know what I mean? Like, talk about the weather with them. Just don't bring up 9/11 with Uncle Phil, at Christmas. Okay, it's going to be bad. Just don't do it.
All right, so here's another one that ties into the future. Isn't the NWO a misnomer? It seems we should be wanting an NWO because this elite cabal mafia is the old WO, and the government elites are all in on it currently.
Well, the new world order, according to Klaus Schwab, is the fourth industrial revolution. It's transhumanism. That is the new order in which they want to put us in. But of course, we know that transhumanism is just a rebranding of eugenics. And so when you hear the sales pitch, what you're really getting is a depopulation sales pitch too. So the new world order, as opposed to the old world order. I think the old world order was pushing for global government. And I think the new version of that, the new world order, if you want to call it that, is pushing for global governance, control through the laws, control through the policies, the control through the World Health Organization, sort of a top-down supranational organizations that can dictate policies to all the countries on Earth. So instead of the way the old world order, if we want to call it that, would do it, which is we've got to conquer you and put our flag there. Instead, they go, no, that's too messy and too improbable. Instead, why don't we tell them that we'll control them through this health policy, and then whenever we decide there's an emergency, we can tell them what to do, and then they'll have everybody in the world go lock themselves in their house, and that works a lot better out of fear instead of force. And so it feels like there's been a pivot. And of course, the emergence of technology in this is very alarming, because they definitely seek to use that to control us in a digital way. And so, be careful of the new world order, because they want to control you too. They just have a different way of doing it.
Thank you for the super chat. The Lifeboat channel, Tommy Scoville show starts in 4 minutes. We still got a little bit of time to squeeze some questions in for Charlie. If you've got any more questions for him, his links are in the description box. You can contact him, stalk him, etc. on X. All right, so Elon Musk, he's come a long way since we last discussed him. What do you make of all this?
He still wants to put chips in your brain, and I have a huge problem with that. I mean, you got to respect the fact that he tackles big projects, right? I'm going to build cars. I'm going to build spaceships. I mean, these are industries that have high barriers to entry. And of course, you on the one hand, you have to sort of respect his hustle. But, I'm always very concerned with people who are presented to us as saviors, or people who are outside of the system. And yes, he sees the world differently, and I do agree with his opinions on population. He's the only one of these guys that brought up the fact that we are underpopulated, and that's an interesting angle, which does not fit with the overriding theme of the technocratic new world order, which is definitely we need to depopulate the earth as fast as we can. He's the only one saying we need to repopulate. So that throws me for a bit of a loop. And but he certainly has found himself a new best friend in Donald Trump, hasn't he?
What about the freedom of speech stuff? Because I've been breathing a sigh of relief, man.
Well, he gives you freedom of speech, but not freedom of reach. And that still is happening on X. I'm getting, everybody that I know is still having their accounts. It goes out. You can say what you want. I'm not getting flagged or anything like that. But it's just I'm talking to a small group of people. Yeah, I have 20,000 followers, which isn't much, but even then, still the numbers are disproportionately off in terms of the reach, and you run those little filters through your username, and it shows like all the ways in which you're being banned, shadow banned and deranked and deboosted and things like that. So it's still happening. You're allowed to talk about what the things that you want to, which I appreciate, but it's as far as like getting any reach, I've noticed that hasn't really changed much at all. But of course, I have low expectations, so I wasn't expecting him to come in and turn everything on. And it would be nice, but so far I haven't seen it.
Oh, it's a shame, Charlie. I had 5,000 watching on Twitter last night when we had
Oh,
Jaguar Right.
amazing!
Like right now, we've got 2,500 on YouTube, almost 500 on Twitter, and 7 on Facebook. We've got 250,000 followers on Facebook, and we got 7. We got almost 200,000 on
Sounds
X.
about right. That sounds about right. Yeah, all you people on X, go follow me at macroaggression, where I argue with robots and call people stupid all day long. It's fun.
Zux got me shadow banned to the extremes. 8 watching right now on Facebook.
8.
That's insane. 8. Like the number 8, not 8K. 8. I got 250,000 followers on Facebook.
4 million. Oh my God.
A quarter million.
Or quarter of a million.
Yeah,
But
and I've
still,
got 8 people watching out of that 250,000.
but must be a mistake on their part. I'm sure they'll get right on it and fix that.
That's like in prison when you're asking the guard to do something for you, to say, "Get right on that."
Yeah.
You never hear from them again.
Yeah.
All right, Charlie. It's always a great pleasure, my friend.
Thank you.
Can you just let the viewers know what they can look forward to at Macroaggressions and why they should follow you, please?
Yeah, we have a fun time over there. Macroaggressions podcast just had our 500th episode, so we've been doing this for almost 5 years now. It's been the best thing I've ever done. I'm so glad that I get a chance to talk to some really amazing and smart people. I've got John Potash coming on. We're talking about mind control, talking about MK Ultra and the CIA using that to have their way in Hollywood. So check that out and go to macroaggressions.io. That's the website. You can find information about the books. Send somebody the audio book for the Octopus of Global Control for Christmas or whatever. It'll keep you busy on a long car ride. That's for sure.
Thanks, brother. If you can connect us with Anna Lee, that would be fantastic.
I will do that.
All right. Thanks, have a good evening. Cheers, my friend. Take care.
Take care.
You. All right. What a great guest. Such amazing vibes of Charlie and such stimulating intellectual conversation as well. He's so well researched. Tommy Scoville coming in now. You got a good 2 hours. Tommy said he's got something big he's going to drop on the Diddy, Jay-Z, Beyonce subject. Get ready to beam over. If you don't beam over, click the channel icon.